Benin City, also known as Ring Road. The civil society groups muster here for the protest against the price and scarcity of fuel. The march takes them to the State House of Assembly, demanding audience with the Speaker of the State Assembly.
Whatever product that is due for Edo State is diverted to the independent marketers. That's why the scarcity in Edo State is hitting us so differently from other states.
Government House next stop for the protesters. Things got a bit heated up here as they approach the gate. They're eventually met by officers of the state government.
We got in touch with a couple of you yesterday. Immediately we got information from the NNPC that they were going to supply fuel into Benin. They were going to supply us
Out there at filling stations in Benin City, the price per litre of fuel ranges from 180 naira to 500 naira. Here at the NNPC mega station at Sapler Road in Benin City, the price is consumer friendly. Little wonder the queue of cars is extended. This lady has been here for hours and hours to get fuel.
How long have you been on this queue today?
More than 6 hours.
At this other station, they sell 500 naira per litre of petrol. Motorists in Benin City are hoping the situation with fuel availability and price is resolved soon. Osaze Obaze, Channels Television News.
Well, not a pleasant one, and I think anyone who drives a car, enter a bus, feels this pinch. There we see in Edo State. I know here in Lagos, mostly what you see displayed on the screen, not what you pay, is 184 naira. Even though when the media ran with the news that the official price is now 184, we did see that there were denials. But what we see in most filling stations in Lagos is 184. But we have as much as 500 naira there in Edo State, and this has been going on since last year, at least since November last year, and we're now going into February. Not a good one, but let's hear what Bolanle Agbaji has to say, Senior Associate with Financial Derivatives. Bolanle, good morning. You always see the good side of this, so please help me see, because I've been buying petrol for about 300, 350 naira, and the queues are not getting any shorter. I mean, even when I was coming this morning, sometimes you have to get other routes, you know, to get to your destination. Because also, even when you spend so much money to buy fuel, you know, petrol, then you still have to deal, you know, spend most of it on traffic. Yes. Because of the queues.
It's ridiculous. I find myself, you know, in traffic and wondering why I'm here, because in the next few days I have to be queuing for fuel again. It's a really trying time for Nigerians. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily good news today. I'm not in the happiest of moods, but
you know where your optimism comes.
Yes, and there was something I saw in the newspaper yesterday. It's like Nigeria, country of queues. I found that very interesting, and I just find myself queuing for everything. Queuing
for the new naira,
you know, PVC, the fuel queues. It's not ending for us, and it just seems like this is probably going to go on until, you know, the elections, and hopefully something comes out of it. Although Moody's, you know, released their report, and they did mention something very interesting. How long would it take, you know, post-elections for the policies to, you know, come into place? So
because there's always that time lag
between when a new administration comes in and the new policy policies set in. So it seems like Nigerians are going to be tried seriously for the next few months.
So what is at the bottom of this? I know you're not in the petroleum sector, but I mean, you have your eyes and your hands in a lot of places.
There are a lot of reasons that they've come out to mention. Some of the associations have mentioned the issue of smuggling, the fact that, there's this price arbitrage between Nigeria and some other neighboring countries, and it seems to benefit some of these marketers to sell oil to, some of those neighboring countries. There's also the issue of the fact that, they're repairing a lot of those roads that the tankers usually pass, and so there's wasted time when it comes to transporting the fuel trucks to the final destination. So there's that wasted time that they factored in, but I don't necessarily think
there's also the talk of the FX.
Yes, the FX issue as well.
FX issue, getting it into the country, it's now more expensive, and the marketers are not happy with what they're buying.
It seems like they're doing this on purpose to kind of make sure that they get, the price at which they've bought some of these fuel products, and also profits from it as well. Because, you go into the filling stations, they've put 185. You have some people buying as high as 600 naira per liter across, Nigeria. And also, nobody's factoring the money you also tip some of those fuel marketing agents within those filling stations as well.
The full attendance.
It's very difficult for Nigerians. And the fact that there's no cash as well in the system because of the change of the currency swap, and which in an ordinary, country shouldn't necessarily be the case. But it seems like nobody is getting it right in terms of policies and adopting some of those new policies that we're seeing in the economy.
And Bolale, it seems like even when from the government or the leadership, they're not really feeling the pain of the people. Even the people inflict more pain. I don't know if you've also heard of people being made to pay extra money if you want to get the new, naira.
So that's what necessarily happens when the system is not getting it right. You have all these agents coming in to benefit from it. In every, in this ordinary situation, if the banks were operating at optimum level where there's enough cash and going to the ATMs is not a struggle, the POS agents wouldn't have any, they wouldn't be able to benefit from, because nobody will be buying from them if it's easy to just walk into a bank and change your money.
Just like the FX, where we now have the black market thriving because you don't have enough supply.
Exactly. So it's a no-brainer for some of those agents. I'm not surprised that that's what's happening, because even those agents are suffering in the economy. The economy is not great for anyone. So everybody's looking for the best way they can, put some money in their pockets.
But you see, those agents get this money from somewhere. Does it mean the banks are the ones selling it to them, so they have to pass it down? Because the CBN did insinuate there was something like that was happening, that the banks have the new notes.
Yes, and it's possible that some people in those in those banks are trying to also benefit from it and sell to the POS agents and also get some money out of it. It's sad to say, but it seems like the banking system is compromised to a certain level, and obviously that just happens when at that top level there's no policy implemented properly, and there's no repercussion for not doing the right
behavior.
Yes,
so the central bank really has to get on this. I know I spoke to an official before coming on the program to tell them, guys, this is what is happening.
Yes,
they are now charging.
They know what is happening. It's
let's assume they didn't know. I did make a call this morning to tell the central bank that this is what is happening. Please, guys, get on it, because Nigeria is our country. We cannot afford to let everything
be so difficult.
There was a story from a Kenyan newspaper. You did say that was in Nigeria, where they said Nigeria a nation of queues. From Kenya, they are now referring to us, the giants of Africa.
Yes.
Do you understand? As a station that seemed not to get its right.
Yes, and going to Kenya, you would actually feel that, more or less stigmatism when it comes to looking at Nigerians. They just believe that Nigerians always try to find a way to, cheats the system, and they more or less feed that to us, and it's not necessarily great, but hopefully we can find.
But can Nigerians survive this till the elections?
funny thing
because
is,
I mean it's common knowledge now. One of the presidential candidates saying it's a strategy to sabotage.
there is also the talk of the political, gain from doing this. But in actual fact, leading up to an election, it seems natural that the current administration will more or less take that laxing perspective, and by the time the new administration comes in, after some time, it picks up again. So we do hope that this is just what's happening at this point, and in the next few months things start to stabilize. Till the end of the year.
I do hope that this will also be a motivation to a lot of Nigerians to go out there and vote wisely, because there are a lot of
and withstand the queues to get your PVCs.
Another queue.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, we see globally now, Brent falls by 1.63%.
Yes.
I don't think Nigeria is feeling some of these falling in Brent or WTI. We're in a world of our own at this time.
Yes, you can say that, but we definitely are, because it's definitely affecting our pockets as a country. Although our oil production is not necessarily great, so I'm sure that's why
we
had recovered, but it seems like we can do much better. Like, we have the potential to do up to about 2 million barrels.
Yeah, it was also 2.2 million.
Yes,
actually.
And we're not, scratching that surface. But all in all, the price of oil is declining at the moment, just because we're seeing that uptick in Russia, and also the fact that there's that expectation of a hike in the federal rates, and obviously there's an inverse relationship with that. Once you see a hike in the rates, it affects oil demand. But on the good side, we're seeing a pickup in the demand from China, and we do hope that before the end of the year it gets to a certain level that plays back into the benefits from oil prices.
Yeah, but unfortunately the uptick in Russia's oil production, or the lack of impact of the sanctions, seems to be, stealing some of those gains that other countries would have got.
The oil sanctions, the sanctions were spoken about for a few months ago, and Russia probably had time to, factor it in and brace itself for. And obviously, you have a lot of countries that are still struggling with picking up their oil supply. So Russia, filling up that gap is a welcome news for.
Yeah, and we do have new customers for Russian oil.
Yes.
We have Afghanistan, Pakistan, all those enemies of the West turning to making it enemy of my
almost
enemy.
like a political.
Exactly.
Yes,
so it has that instrument.
So we always knew Russia would definitely have some of those countries on its side. So it's going to be hard for those sanctions to bite hard. But I'm sure as time goes on, because there's only so much Russia can do in terms of produce to a certain level. Once they hit their max, and that's it. Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest, oil producers, and I don't think anybody can surpass them at the moment. But Russia is currently benefiting from it, but as a result, you're seeing a fall in oil prices. But it depends. When oil prices fall to a certain level, then it doesn't become as profitable for, Russia, and it wouldn't make sense to keep producing, at that point.
But they're already selling cheap, compared to
they're already selling
global prices.
Yeah, but they will definitely still hit their cost, and it will become, not profitable for them at some point.
Okay, all right. And then the gas is still going down, liquefied natural gas.
Yes, although we saw an uptick this morning, and although it's not that significant, but the fact that we had better weather than expected, and we still have actually the Eurozone, they had already built their inventories to a certain level, but at some point during the year they would more or less need to restock. Although we do expect,
you think by then it might go up again?
It will definitely go up again, but it just depends for how long the uptick in price would be. Although I think now the expectations would be that they would use about 50% of their inventory, so they'll need to replace that.
That's a lot, 50%.
It's a lot, but last year it was way more than that. Yes, so this year hopefully we shouldn't be.
But they seem to be escaping that recession, because even IMF, they've toned down and increased outlook and said that Europe might escape that recession. Can't say for the UK.
Yes, the Eurozone, sentiment has also increased as well. In January, it's increased to about 99.9%. So it's more or less their consumer confidence, index type of thing. And the expectation was that it would increase to about 98%. And so they're doing way better. But like the West, once they're faced with any problem, they hit on it very hard, and they do the right thing. And the economy actually follows suit, unlike what we're facing in Nigeria, where you have so many agents that are drawing, the country back down.
And like we don't have that intentional solution to deal with issues, unfortunately. Well, we have mid-crop harvest to overlap main crop harvest because of early rains. That should make crops cheap, yes?
Yes, so for cocoa, it should make it cheaper, but right now we're seeing prices increase to about $2,664 per ton, which is great for us in Nigeria. So usually the main crop harvest starts from September and lasts till about January, February, and then the mid-crop harvest starts in March and lasts till about June. So right now we're seeing the mid-crop harvest, start at about now, which is great. So it means that the supply for cocoa would increase significantly, and that's due to the heavy rainfalls. So right now, as prices are still high, it means that Nigeria is, ready to benefit about 600 million naira from that.
But as you said, we still have room for improvement,
yes,
because when we look at, last time we looked at those states that are supposed to and how much they are producing, when we talk of cocoa, we saw there's a lot of shortfall.
The potential for cocoa ordinarily, like what had happened in the 60s, is about 460,000 tons. Right now, we're only in the 200,000 region. And obviously there's room to grow, but the agents, the private investors that are in that field, the motivation, the tax environment, the policy environment, all of that keep deterring investors. With the Moody's downgrade again, we have a lot of investors leaving, the country.
And mentioning that Moody's just, makes me sad.
It's really moody.
Very moody, because we've already seen our Eurobond getting more expensive.
Yes, it's even going to get much more expensive. It seems like the downgrade has even done much worse than it should have. Obviously, you have the release of that, but your debt servicing cost is going to increase even more with the downgrade, and it's not necessarily great for us. But we do hope that the tax environment, or the increase in tax, and also the revenue we get from the non-oil sector would increase over time.
Yeah, it should increase. I mean, we talked a lot about the 2022 finance bill, and we see new taxes, but of course that also has its own adverse effect, because a lot of businesses will now be squeezed, and it might affect employment.
And even you do have a lot of investors that have invested in private businesses as well, also leaving because they're not also sure about what the tax environment is about.
And the election too is also something that gives a lot of uncertainty. Investors are like, let's hold on and see what's going to happen, if the country will survive the election, and how the environment will look.
So our outlook is that everybody is looking towards the end of this year, when everything can actually stabilize, and then we can focus on what the country actually needs in terms of infrastructure, in terms of education, in terms of all those areas of the economy that would actually boost the growth in the long term.
Okay, so we've talked about cocoa. What else is happening in the economy?
So in the domestic commodities markets, we're seeing prices actually decline. We saw that with our inflation numbers, and we do hope that that particular downward trend continues. And obviously in January is the trend to see prices taper down after the December festivities. So but it's great news for us at the moment, although that is not contributing to energy prices at all at the in the current period. So that's all that's happening in
I wonder what the inflation numbers will look like for January when we factor in the energy, all these queues and manpower that is lost. And
it'll be good to wait and see what would happen by the time we collate all those numbers.
I'm sure it will justify the MPC stance that that drop we saw in December was just transient and nothing.
Yes, definitely, because the inflation is still at record high levels, so it makes sense that interest rates follow suit to bring that those numbers down.
Even though some people will argue with you that you need to expand the economy to be able to handle some of this.
It's side by side, because expanding the economy takes time. It's not a short-term, a solution. The interest rate is a short-term solution. So expanding the economy follows it and has to work side by side. But you don't see the effect of that immediately.
All right, Bolanle Agbaje, Senior Associate with Financial Derivatives, who is not wearing our optimism cap this morning.
Because I've been bitten hard.
You've been bitten. Oh my world! I hope by the time you come on Thursday, you would have had even if a little bit of optimism. Too short.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll just have an open
finished.
And you have to queue again.
Again. Yes.
Unfortunately, well, this is our country, and we have to do the best. And everybody cannot jackpot now.
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Thank you so much. We'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you for having me.